Hello everyone, we are going to talk about off-roading HD trucks and diesel trucks. In both cases, they're both very heavy. Diesel trucks have even more weight over specifically the front axle, and we're going to talk about their ability to off-road and how you can maximize your ability. The context of this conversation is going to be more geared toward normal off-roading, as in not trying to find the maximum possible off-roading potential of the truck, trying to find ways to get yourself in trouble. By that I mean not trying to go do extremely difficult trails that are intended for, say, a Jeep on 35s. Yes, if you properly equip a truck like this, you will have no problem doing a trail that a Jeep on 35s is doing, 37s even. A vehicle that comes from the factory ready to do things like that, more or less, I think a set of tires is a good idea, but the Dodge Ram Power Wagon, is factory equipped to do things like that. Front and rear lockers, sway bar disconnect, extensive underbody, underframe, skid plate protection. They need rock sliders, and they have a factory winch, which is excellent. The tremors are getting there. They don't have a front locker, but you can get around that with good driving and pulling winch cable sooner. They have factory winch options. The Tremor is definitely a competitor in this realm. The AT4X Chevy, I've never driven one, but based upon its specification and the capability of the truck, I would assume it to be getting there, as well as being able to do hard trails. But let's keep this conversation more geared toward realistic things you might do. You went to a campground, you went camping, you went exploring off-road, and you're going to go take a true track that Jeeps and side-by-sides and ATVs are taking, things like that. What can you do to maximize your potential? Or maybe you're working on a piece of land that you guys own. You have trails that go through your property. You've been working on it, say with a half-ton truck or a full-size Bronco or some older truck or whatever. And now you want to go and get a new truck. You're kind of curious, well, can I get away with doing some of the similar things that I was doing before? The answer is, to make a long story short, yes, you absolutely can. But there's probably some equipment that you may want to have with you and a mindset that you may want to have when you're going into it. So let's begin with the mindset. Is the most important thing. If you're wheeling alone is very dangerous, not only for your health, but for your vehicle's health. You can easily get into a situation. This is my driveway, okay? This is not intended to be a big deal. But let's just say you are trying to wheel through here. I could literally take my excursion through here, assuming that those two trees weren't there. Boom, 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 boom. If there was room to go that way, okay? Yeah, it's tight, but that truck is capable of doing things like that. If you get in trouble, it's very hard. For instance, this is angling downhill. If for some reason your front end slipped this way and you slip toward these trees, you're probably going to encounter body damage on your left side. Just looking at this, just objectively, you're probably going to encounter body damage on the left side, whereas if you had a buddy who could hook a winch cable up to your front and drag your front to the side or hold your rear this way as you went through here, if things started to go wrong, you maybe wouldn't encounter that body damage. Wheeling alone can be a recipe for getting stranded and for causing extra damage to your beautiful side of your truck that you simply don't need to do. So going about it in a smart way might be, I want to get into wheeling a full-size truck. I want to have a buddy to wheel with. It could be as simple as posting on any of this truck forum. There's a full-size overlanding group. There's just so many different groups on Facebook that you could post on. Hey, I'm new to this. I want to wheel with somebody. Is anybody interested? You're going to be able to, I guarantee you someone else is also in a situation of, I want to do this, but I don't want to wheel alone. You guys can team up, work together, and you're going to be able to go on your trips. You guys could do 2 separate trips, except for you team up for the wheeling part and you separate out for the overlanding part or the camping part or whatever the heck else you're doing. Or at least to have friends on the line to call. I'm very lucky that, first of all, I'm normally the friend who gets called to pull people out. But I also have a group of friends that have trucks and the knowledge required to get me out of trouble should I need it. In my situation right now, I'm like 250 miles away from my friends, so I'm going to make some really good choices to not get myself into a bad situation. If I have a friend down the road, then maybe you could, get away with being a little bit more risky. A good mindset going into this is, don't ever put yourself in a situation that you can't get yourself out of, or call yourself out of the situation. The towing bill to recover yourself out of a bad situation, I promise you, makes it not worth putting yourself in that situation. There's absolutely nothing you need to do short of rescuing your dog or rescuing your child that you need to put your vehicle on the line in that situation to do. And hopefully that we're avoiding situations of having to rescuing your child or a dog or another person in a dangerous environment and whatever on your own. Hopefully we're avoiding that whole problem to start with. But that would be an example of a situation that I would absolutely sacrifice my truck to go save my dog or to go save my child. Having the right tires for your application makes a huge difference. Just one set of tires. You could have, if I could pick one thing to change about any vehicle, I'm going to pick the opportunity to select what tires that my vehicle has. And I would choose that over any other modification I could possibly make to the truck, because that set of tires is going to heavily determine the capabilities of my truck. I could go with a smaller mud tire and do more than what a bigger all-terrain or a bigger street tire can do. So especially if you can go with a bigger mud tire, it starts opening up the doors to do some pretty powerful stuff. An HD truck needs to be, and I've done a lot of wheeling, okay, on 33s. So I'm not going to try and tell you can't do a lot on 33s, because you can do so much on 33s. But on these modern trucks, first of all, they don't look very good in 33s. These are 34.5s. 35s is a good place to be, where you have enough clearance to get the axle up off the ground, because the limiting factor of the truck is usually dragging axles and the breakover angle. Both of those things are improved by having bigger tires. Tire width. Tire width is a really important one. I think 285 is a tire width that you can go and do lots of things. I like 285s. These are 285s. I've had many different sets of 285s, whether they be on 16-inch wheels, 17-inch wheels, and now 20-inch wheels. I've gone a lot of places on 285 with tires. I've also commonly had 12.5 wide tires. On heavy-duty trucks, ground pressure is an issue. The wider tire you have set yourself up to have lower ground pressure right away. The larger diameter tire you have also is lower ground pressure right away. When you air down a large diameter tire, you still have a lot of distance below the axle. When you air down a wide tire, your tire only gets really big and really distributes load extremely well. The key to HD trucks off-roading, maintaining speed, knowing when to give it a little bit of throttle right at the right time to help you out of a situation where maybe you can't carry a high speed through an obstacle, but maybe you have just a little dip, and you can use that dip to give you that extra little bit of velocity to help you up the next. So using the terrain at the right time is a huge factor with heavy duty trucks, because they weigh a lot. And maintaining the velocity so that you don't get slowed down and bogged down, because when you try and get these trucks going, and this we're going to get to another point that hopefully I don't forget to say, when you try and get these trucks going again, they do tend to drop first and then go, unless of course the ground's hard and you're not going to drop. But if you're in soft terrain, they drop first and then they go. If you let them drop too much, for instance, you come to a stop without going back and forth a couple times to pack down the ground, it might be a recipe for a disaster on getting accelerated again. Now, the point that I didn't want to forget is, the point that I didn't want to forget, oh no, this is going to make me mad. What I almost forgot to say is that with a full-size truck, picking and choosing the times at which you choose to take a rest or take a pause is really important. Try to park them up on a hill so that when you get back going again, you have gravity helping you out going downhill. Try to park them at least where a couple tires are on a hard spot if you can. Get a tire up on a stump if you're in a bad situation, or roots. Get them up on roots. Things like that will definitely help to get you going again. Now, in the context of a landowner who's trying to use their truck to, say, move a trailer on swampy ground or whatever, obviously you have a whole nother series of problems. You may only be 50 feet from your driveway, but that may bite you really hard in the butt. Going about this, first of all, by preparing ahead of time and having, if you have a rear locking diff, lock the diff, put in four-wheel drive early, confirm that you're in four-wheel drive, confirm that you don't have a hub problem or a lazy hub, like my left hub is always slower than my right hub. If you have a Ford, twist in your hub lockouts beforehand. If you know you're going in a situation you don't have a buddy there to save you, not so much of a concern if you're wheeling with a friend and whatever, and if you get hung up, no big deal, he'll pull you out, you guys can laugh about it. But if you're alone, and for sure if you don't want to tear up your yard, say backing up to your trailer that's in a wet part of your yard or whatever, make sure that you have four-wheel drive engaged by going out and twisting your hubs in, because that's a surefire way of knowing both hubs are locked in, because if one hub isn't locked in, you don't have four-wheel drive. So it is with an open differential, you don't have four-wheel drive if both hubs aren't locked in, so make sure those stupid hubs are locked in. Preparing your truck beforehand for the situation at hand is really important. Now, I would recommend, because of the weight of the truck and because of how important wheel speed is on a vehicle this heavy, because of the way these tires tend to glom up when you're in poor terrain, snow, sand, mud, all of which require wheel speed. 4 low is not your friend. 4 low is your enemy that's going to get you stuck. The one thing that is on your side in 4 low is all traction controls are turned off. What you really need to have is the ability to wick up these tires to, say, 40, 50 mile an hour, if not more, in an emergency, because they're going to clean like crazy, they're going to dig, and it's going to get you moving again, so you don't have to be so abusive on your drive line. Traction control will physically get you stuck. I don't even know why they put traction control in HD trucks, because it's absolutely pointless. It's absolutely terrible. It shouldn't exist. Turn it off. It won't be all the way off, but at least it's off enough to where you can get the wheel speed you need to have. You can literally, for instance, my dad's 2012 Denali, I got it stuck on wet grass once with the traction control off because the truck refused to let the tires spin. You could hold the throttle wide open and it would sit there and just barely turn the tires like that, because it just wasn't calibrated to allow it to be used like that. This truck, I'll tell you right now, when you turn the traction control off in 4-wheel drive, it'll absolutely melt these tires. However, it'll cap you at about 30 mile an hour wheel speed, maybe a little bit more. So unfortunately, it's not really helping you. I wouldn't recommend, unless you have good hard ground, using 4 low to go pick up your trailer in the back of your property or whatever. These trucks, all of these trucks, have more than enough engine torque, transmission, gear reduction, and axle gear reduction to turn the tires that you have, as long as you don't have like 40s on stock gears. Now that's kind of, handicapping your vehicle. And that's another thing that we should definitely talk about too. Make sure your modifications are consistent with your success. Big, ugly, stupid wheels are not helping you off-road. They're not helping the tire conform to the ground. They're just not helping you. Wheels or tires with dumb tread patterns, they're not really helping you. So make sure that a good tread pattern does not have a pocket knife as its design. I'm sorry to tell you. So make sure that you're setting yourself up for success with your modifications that you've made. Know the limitations that your modifications are making for you. If you're going to go put massive tires on your truck without lifting it, you're probably going to run into a situation where you're going to be rubbing hard on either your radius arm or on your body. As you can see, there's still a lot of room here. I could probably run 37s on these wheels and clear the body. Maybe it might just rub just a little bit. Radius arm's probably going to get pretty close at full lock. So don't set yourself up for failure so you can't turn tight enough off-road because your tires are too big. Now, AT versus MT. HD trucks respond extremely well to MTs because they have the driveline and they have the engines to turn MTs in a way that's going to get you through a lot of stuff. I've had many sets of MTs. The high water, or the best one that I know of in terms of on-road balance, ride dynamics, handling, comfort, tread wear, with the best off-road tire capability or the best off-road traction, is the Nitto Mud Grappler. That tire always balances well. It's extremely round. It has excellent on-road braking, on-road cornering, trailer towing ability, good tread life if you air them down. That is a great tire. Nitto Trail Grapplers, again, I've had really good experiences. I had 2 sets of KO2s, really like those. My buddy has a set of KO3s. I'm sorry, back up. I've had sets of KO2s, but let me finish here. KM2s. I had 2 sets of KM2s on my Cummins. I love them. My buddy has a set of KM3s on his 6.7 Power Stroke. They've been very good for him. He puts a lot of miles on. He drives like an idiot. And JT, if you're watching, you drive like an idiot. They have been wonderful tires for him. We've been through some really nasty mud in that truck, and they clean extremely well. They're very good tires. I've had 3 or 4 sets of Grabber X3s. Really good tire. I have heard newer productions, and the problem is I haven't tested a set in a couple of years. So maybe they've corrected this, where they had some tread wear issues and things like that, and roundness issues, tread ply separations. It was either 3 or 4 sets when they first came out, and I loved them. I got tons of, 45, 50,000 miles out of each set. And that's mix of towing, and that's not burning them down to nothing. That's burning them down to like 35%, where you don't have enough tread to really hang your hat on the fact that you still have mud tires, but they'd still work on the road. They had good sand performance, good mud performance, good snow performance. I loved those Grabber X3s. There are lots of good, I have not had any good luck. First of all, I guess if we're going to talk about this, Toyo MTs, by far the worst mud tire I have ever had the displeasure of off-roading with. We had the opportunity of putting many different sets of wheels and tires onto one truck, my 6.0, and wheeling it compared to my Power Wagon in a very muddy field. By a very muddy field, I mean the farmer didn't bring his four-wheel drive articulated tractors in the field for weeks after we were playing it. Yes, we had permission to be there. We were going mudding his field, and it was by all sense and purposes a mud pit. My 6.0, we switched between multiple sets of tires. We had Cooper SST Pros on it. We had Toyos. We had X3s on it. We put a whole bunch of different wheels and tire combinations on the one truck to see how it did. The X3s were a huge standout. The Coopers did really good. Oh, another good one is the Kumo Road Venture MT. That tire, and I don't know about its long-term use, but its traction in the mud is phenomenal. Really a good tire in the mud. Those Toyo MTs, I have seen nothing but poor tread life. They are really hard, so they're terrible on road in the wintertime. Terrible mud traction. By far the worst tire I've ever used in the mud. I'd rather have these Falcons in the mud than a Toyo MT. I have not seen very good tread life out of them here in Michigan. Maybe they work better for people who commonly off-road on sand or slick rock. I'm assuming that given their tread compound and whatever, they work extremely well in Texas and in other places that are hot, in Nevada and Arizona and Southern California on slick rock and on sand and all that stuff. I'm assuming that's where they shine. Here in Michigan, I wouldn't touch them with 10-foot pole. Frankly, like I said, I'd rather have these Falcon AT4Ws to a set of Toyo MTs, in my opinion, for my uses off-road. I have no interest in them. Not a good tire. So I don't really know why there's a lot of, please don't go and buy that tire. Or at least if you're even will listen to me, even the smallest amount, consider a different tire. It's a terrible tire. Sorry, Toyo. I'm not hating on you. You make a lot of other good tires. Your RTs are really good tires. The Toyo RTs are excellent tires. They work very, very well long-term on cement, in snow, in mud, in sand. I've had really good experiences with the RT. MTs, no. So, your tire selection is just so unbelievably important. In the same way, perhaps you don't need to have the maximum off-road traction. Put a set of reasonable size, a good set of all-terrains on your truck, and you're going to go a lot of places. The biggest time you will hate these is in bottomless mud. They do okay in wet. By that, I mean watered-down mud where it's not gloopy. Gloopy mud will clog up an AT so fast it'll blow your mind. So tire selection is just so important. It is everything. To have lockers next to tires. If you put the right set of tires on your truck and you have at least one locker, your life will be very easy. The Rebel, when you get a gas truck, and we're going to have a video on the Rebel here shortly, the HD Rebel, it comes with a rear locker. I'm pretty sure the AT4, I need to look more into the GM AT4X because it is an intriguing truck. I'm pretty sure that has a factory e-locker in the rear, and obviously F250s and 350s have been coming with an e-locker as well, standard with the FX4 package or optional on all other trucks that aren't dual rear wheels since 2011. I think that was a really good move by Ford. I think Ford and GM need to follow suit. I'm sorry. I think Ram and GM need to follow suit with standard e-lockers being the case for everybody because they simply make life a lot easier. And to put an e-locker in once you design it and come up with your manufacturing process is not that much more expensive than putting the G80, which is a terrible diff, or a True Track style helical gear limited slip, which has been the anti-spin diff that's been in the Dodge. That is a True Track styled helical gear limited slip differential. It works okay on the road, works okay in the rain. It's not any good for anything else. So I would prefer to have a true locker for all of that stuff, and to have an e-locker and as a factory option. I just think that should be, as Ford has made it, more or less a standard. It's not standard, but it's become a standard if you want. Your Dodge and GM need to be following suit. It's long past time. So that is a recipe for success. If you get into If you're mudding, or if you're in Michigan, normally rock sliders aren't so much as a need because we just don't have the hard objects that we're bridging over top like out west where you're rock crawling. Normally in Michigan, we're wheeling in sand. We're wheeling amongst the woods. There's hills, there's trees, there's downed logs, there's things like that. Rock sliders aren't as pivotal because, as you can see, it take a pretty darn big tree to, hit your underside. So, but rock sliders are a huge plus. Going back to self-recovery, traction boards are huge. A Bubba rope and a couple tow straps that are way in excess of your truck's weight, 20 to 40,000 pounds works well. 40,000 pounds being ideal for a truck like this, for a diesel truck or a gas truck, HD truck. Several different steel 7/8 or 3/4 clevises and several shackles, soft shackles or clevises, shackles, whatever you want to call them, but soft shackles also, because soft shackles are amazing. I have tested them. I've abused them to find out what they can take, and let me tell you, they can take. Big fan. Make sure your truck has tow hooks. I'm pretty sure all Super Duties come with tow hooks. For the longest time, Ram trucks had optional tow hooks. I don't know why that was a thing. Make sure your truck has tow hooks, because when you get in trouble or somebody else gets in trouble, you want to pull them out. You don't want to hook to anything else but the tow hook or the trailer hitch frame, or some way that you want to hook to the trailer hitch, but because that is cross-bolted to the frame, just as these are bolted to the frame, they are the points that you want to pull from. You do not want to pull from the axle. You do not want to pull from a little hole in the frame with a hook, because you're going to peel the metal right out of your frame. You want something with more bearing area on your frame, which is i.e. your front tow hooks or your rear setup. Factory winch to self-recover yourself or recover somebody else. Very important. I'm going to gripe about something at the same time I compliment. So the Power Wagon established the standard for factory winch, and kudos to Dodge, and then kudos to Ram. I get they're the same thing, and I commonly call them Dodge, but I'm trying to be respectful here. The product line is now called Ram, and good for you guys. The Power Wagon is absolutely amazing. Everyone who isn't looking for the best towing truck or the diesel should be considering the Power Wagon as an excellent heavy-duty daily driver for you. Ram, we're gonna make a video, but you guys need to come out with a better gas engine. We'll talk about that. So stay tuned if you're interested in a conversation about Ram's gas engines and the potential that Ram has to absolutely shock the market with an awesome update to their truck. Stay tuned. I'm gonna make a video on that. So, Ram put winch on Power Wagon. Excellent. Tremor comes out with winch on Tremor, both for gas and diesel. Excellent. Good job. Rebel comes out to allow you to get a diesel sort of Power Wagon light, which is really cool, except for you can't get the factory winch with the Ram because they haven't figured out a way to get the intercooler out of the way and probably the transmission oil cooler. If Ford can figure out how to do it, so can you. Simply put an air-to-water intake on it. We'll make a video on the Rebel because I'm really intrigued by it. It's a really cool truck, but like you're missing something. Diesels especially need to have winches to self-recover because they are freaking heavy. They have a lot of weight over the front end. You can use that to your advantage. We'll talk about that. That'll be our closing conversation, is how to use the weight and the driveline and the truck to your advantage. I don't know of any GM other than like an AEV modified GM truck that has a factory winch. That needs to change. Factory winches are great. The Super Duty does not allow for the factory winch installation on the F450 or on the 410 gear heavy tow package F350. The reason is because they both have the same transmission oil cooler, auxiliary cooler, right here. All we have to do for it is move that and put it somewhere else. There's got to be some other place that you can put the transmission cooler somewhere else so that we can have a winch on F450, the hidden winch on the F450, and on the 350 with 410 gears, the heavy tow package 350 dually. So, what else here? I'm distracted by very loud tires here approaching in a very snoosy sounding turbo. It's a good sound Duramax. Okay, so the winch is good, except for we can't get it on all models. There should be a way for us to move the winch, or I'm sorry, the auxiliary coolers to better utilize the winch on all the different models. That would be really, really good. So I got distracted by the Duramax. I got my train of thought back. The reason why the winches have to be hidden on all these trucks, and the reason why they end up being a problem on the dirt on the Cummins and on with the auxiliary transmission oil cooler, is because of pedestrian and also bumper impact regulation. If you have the winch sticking out in front, it's going to clobber a pedestrian, and also to the 5-mile-an-hour bumper that is there for low speed impacts that is supposed to deform and absorb impact. If the winch was sticking out in front of it, then the winch that's hard mounted to the frame becomes a thing that hits the car, and you no longer have a 5-mile-an-hour bumper, and it certainly isn't safe for pedestrians. That is the reason why from the OEM they can't give you a front-mounted winch. That's the reason. So the aftermarket, you can buy aftermarket bumpers, you put a big winch in them, you can do that with a 450, do that with the dually, 350 or whatever. You can definitely do that. That is the reason why the OEMs can't give it to you. So with the truck, this is a stock height F350, simply with tires put on it. Factory E-locker. This combination right here would absolutely get you out in the woods, get you out going doing some wheeling, and it doesn't compromise. I still tow very big trailers with this setup. It would get you out in the woods. Remember to air down your tires and consider buying something like a power tank. I have a power tank. I love my power tank. I don't have to have an electric air compressor to carry around and hope that it's wired up correctly and no air leaks and whatever. I love my power tank. It allows me to air my tires down, to air them back up. I can air up a ludicrous amount of tires that are sized like this. With that, I use it to air up lawnmower tires and tractor tires if they misbehave. I absolutely love having the power tank. It was a really good investment. I'm glad that I have it. Recommend that you look at that too if you're going to even do some mild off-roading. With this combination, if you air down to say 25 psi, you could go and wheel and go and have a lot of fun with this truck, even on all terrains, and you'd go a lot of places, including backing into your property to go pick up your trailer. So trying to bring this all back together. The downside of the heavy-duty truck is the weight of a substantial frame, of the engine, of huge cooling capacity on these HD trucks. The axles weigh more because they're really strong. All of these things can be seen as a detriment, including the front weight bias. They can also be seen as an advantage. The strength that comes factory with an HD truck, and I've talked about this before, they are unbelievably strong from the factory. They have unbelievable cooling systems that will always keep your transmissions, your power steering, and your engine cold so that you can go do things like off-road. This is coming from the factory, ready to go to work. It would, if you wanted to go wild, winch, rock sliders, underbody protection, lift, wheels, tires, front locker. Boom. You have yourself an incredibly capable power wagon competitor, fully built Jeep competitor, fully built off-road vehicle, whatever. This truck is capable of doing that. Now, little caveat, 23 and up has a different front axle. I say this in darn near every one of my videos because I got hoodwinked. It's now the M235 front axle. It is stronger than the Dana 50 because it's using a Super 60 housing. It's a weaker version, or it has a smaller ring gear and smaller pinion and all that stuff. It's smaller. But it's still a really good truck. You can't buy a front locker yet. I imagine someday there will be a front locker because as far as I know, the differential housing design is the same one that's in the back of the Bronco. So I imagine that at some point we're going to be able to get a locker for this truck. But on an older 22 and back Ford, you can go right now down to your local ring and pinion shop and they can install you a E-locker or an ARB into the front of your Super Duty, and you can get an ARB or a Power Wagon E-locker for your AAM 9.25 in your Dodge truck, and you can very quickly turn your truck into a locked front and rear truck, and it would be amazing. The weight that the truck has is something that can be a detriment off-road, but it means that the truck has a lot of inertia, and that means like snow wheeling, you can really punch these things through snow. So as long as you have the tires aired down, you have good tires for playing in snow, you can really punch through the snow with this truck. Power-wise, driveline-wise, it's extremely strong. You can put big tires on it, you can wheel it off-road, and the front weight bias can be somewhat used to your advantage. The rear end doesn't do a whole terrible lot, especially with the diesel engine. It's really driving with the front end. So you can use that to your advantage by using your front tires to place them where you need to go. And you can drive the truck over obstacles simply by getting the front tires and picking your line right and getting the front tire onto that line that pulls you up. But I was getting to that. But the front locker in the front makes the biggest difference to an HD truck. You can get by with open diffs with lighter vehicles, and you can get by with rear-only lockers in lighter vehicles for sure, and really excel. With an HD truck, it's really the front end that drives you. The rear locker works really well if you have a trailer on the back and you're trying to get going, because the bulk of your trailer weight is on the rear end, so having the rear locker makes a lot of sense. Or if you're pulling a boat up a boat ramp, things like that, where the front axle is actually being unloaded by the ramp or unloaded by the tongue weight of the trailer. The front end in an off-roading scenario, if you can have a front locker in the front of an HD truck, you can really use that front end and point wherever the tires are pointing, the truck is going to go when you have a front locker. So that is a very important takeaway. So hopefully that covered everything that it takes to get out and go wheeling with an HD truck. I've done a lot of wheeling in my 04 Excursion, my 03 Cummins, my 02 Chevy 6.0. I've done a lot of wheeling in HD trucks. I really like wheeling HD trucks. I've done a lot of wheeling in my 2014 or 17 Power Wagon, my 2019 6.7, and I've done a little bit of wheeling in this, though I'm really trying to take care of it because I'm depending it right now as my tow vehicle. And the other thing is, I've gotten in some trouble off-roading before in terms of breaking stuff. Power Wagon went through 3 power steering pumps. My 6.7 Ford was totally an abominable snowman. I never had any trouble with that, driveline or engine-wise or anything. I just can't really afford to screw up, and that's, I guess, one little takeaway. When you have a nice truck like this, make sure that you're keeping in mind what you need to do with it the rest of the week, because you very, very quickly you can have something turn very awry when you're off-roading, and if you're alone, you may not make it home on Sunday to get to your desk on Monday if you're wheeling it too hard in the woods and you got nobody to come and get you. So approach that with a solid mindset of being careful. These are really good trucks to start with, to really get into off-roading with, because they do so many other things well, and you can start with something that doesn't need to have built axles, built T-case, swap this, swap that, all this other monkey motion around, and you can just go get an HD truck. And if you buy like a Power Wagon or a Tremor, you're already off to the races of having a really capable, or a Rebel, a really capable HD truck. And to be frank, a regular Super Duty with the FX4 package already has a couple skid plates, not as good as the Power Wagon, has a rear locker. You're off to a really good start as having a good off-road truck. So I'm getting cold. It's been a long time out here filming. You guys have a great day. I appreciate you all. Remember to leave comments. And if you like the video, like and subscribe. Let me know how I did. If you have any questions, you want to talk about your specific vehicle that you're looking at upgrading, comment down below. I have either upgraded your vehicle or dreamt of upgrading your vehicle. So trust me, you're not going to surprise me if you post down below what you have and what you're trying to do with it, because either I've done it before or I've dreamed of doing it. Take care all. Have a great day.